pretty good first date. Though it isn't really a first date.
A little over the top, I would say, for a first date. Like, you know, want to row to Alaska. You know, I reminded Daniel today that in the very first promotional video that R2AK put out, they had a number of, you know, purely rowing vessels in the video, and nobody had yet kind of done the race in a
solely rowing vessel.
Rowing vessel. So we thought, well, that's pretty good. And then, you know, knowing a bit about Janice's very strong rowing background, like if I were going to do it, she'd be the person I'd want to go with.
Yeah, I think it's been a lot longer than we anticipated. We were hoping to make the whole trip in about 2 weeks, maybe 3. We're probably going to be pushing the 3 weeks, maybe a bit longer. Just dealing with the sea state all the time. It's really hard on the back. If it's rough and rocking, we get sore bottom ends, need to take breaks quite frequently. So that's been pretty challenging. We had good conditions going through Seymour Narrows. We had a nice weather window and we did 40 miles that day. It was pretty good. We were with the current with a bit of wind. Then in Johnston Strait it got kind of rocky and just also hard to find reasonable places where we can get the boat up out of the water and secure for the night and where we can camp. One of the nicest beaches we were at was just before Cape Caution, a place called Burnett Bay. Beautiful long sandy beach. We did a bit of a surf landing just after sunset because we were trying to position ourselves for Cape Caution, so we had to get out in the water rather late in the evening, but the tide was really high that night, so we had to haul the boat up onto logs, and then the next morning it was super low. So we've been dealing with really extreme tides right now, which has added hugely to our challenges, because that next morning took us about 3 hours just to get the boat back to the water and with all our gear loaded in. So sometimes our days are kind of short rowing because we're just spent from actually getting the boat on the water. So, and the other part of that too is if the tides weren't so extreme, we'd probably be able to camp on the beach in a number of places, but we just couldn't because the tide was so high. That would have been a bit easier too. Last year the race started sort of at around probably the high tide, the extremes, and this year we started where they were more moderate and have gone into the extremes. So if it had started 2 weeks later, we probably wouldn't have had all the same challenges in terms of just campsites and stuff.
It's just another challenge though, right? We're probably going to run into a few more between here and Ketchikan.
A few more challenges, like bears and stuff?
Maybe we hadn't anticipated.
Yeah, it's kind of like one day at a time, just see what happens. Our goal is to do at least 32 to 35 miles a day, and we figure we can sneak in just ahead of that boat. But it's so weather dependent. We've got pretty long channels where there's wind and current to deal with, so we'll have to try and play things so that we're not fighting the current or the wind. But
I mean, you know, it would be nice to finish within the next week. But I mean, you know, really, for us, you know, it's also, this is our vacation, and so it's more of an adventure rather than a race, you know, and I think that's kind of the spirit of it. You know, we didn't really talk about the butt brakes, but that was totally unanticipated I mean, you've done lots of rowing and had lots of sore butts, but
not like that.
You know, we're doing about 5 knots, like when we get going, you know, we're doing 4.5 to 5.5 knots, but then we have to take like 3 to 4 butt brakes an hour, and those take like 3 or 4 minutes, you know, like to get the circulation back in your butt. And so if you add those up, then your effective speed is really only about 4 to 4.5. So it's I never really factored that in. I never thought my butt would be so sore.